Okay, we are live. Everybody, hello. Welcome to Life Uncommon. My name is Andrea. I was about to say, and today I'm going to let my co-host introduce herself and her partner.
So I'm Alida, and we are really excited to join you from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Woohoo!
And we do have a special guest with us today, and this is Tom Sharp.
Good afternoon.
All right. So we're going to, as usual, I know we're running a little bit late, so I just want to give people a few seconds to kind of catch on.
Yeah.
And then we'll begin because I think today is such an important topic, and we want to encourage our viewers to be sharing the link. And even if you miss some of it and you jump on later on, this is going to be a show where you could, share afterwards because it will be on our page. So thank you, Tom, for, taking some of your vacation time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm always excited when Tom's able to join us.
Yeah, me too. So I'm glad that he said yes. I hope you didn't twist his arm too much, Alida.
Not too much.
All right. Okay. So today, for those tuning in, we're going to be talking about trauma. And I think it's such a fitting topic, especially in light of the culture that we're living in and how things are in Belize. And for me, I've never really given much thought to what trauma means or what it does, because when I think of trauma, I think about the ER, the emergency room, the trauma center.
Yeah.
So when I saw a post, I was like, "Ooh, okay, this is a good topic." And I was very happy when Alida said that both you and her, Tom, did a course on trauma with children or trauma and a whole. So anyways, tell us about what trauma is. What is trauma? Let's start with that.
Well, to lay a foundation, the word trauma is a French word, and it actually means the lingering wound.
Wow. Okay.
So trauma itself means it's some wound that is either very, very slow to heal or doesn't heal at all. So that gives us a clue about what we're talking about.
Okay.
And often when we interact with a person who's been traumatized, they may have some very unusual and strange behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And the typical question to ask that person, if it's someone in our family or a friend, we might ask them, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Why do you behave so strangely? Why don't you fit in better? And actually, that's the wrong question to ask. What we should ask is, what has happened to you?
Wow.
Tell me your history. Tell me your story, so that I can know what you experienced, so that you behave in the manner that you're behaving. And that helps us understand a person's life history and what they've experienced already, and understanding that they've gone through something that is absolutely life-changing.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is definitely not a topic, I would say, that you could really go as in depth as we probably should. I think this is definitely something that requires a lot of time, and you could look at it at all different angles.
Right.
So today we're going to try our best to be concise and to give as much information as possible, but know that this is something that, we may not be able to cover everything that we would want to.
Exactly. Alida said that we only had 6 hours for the show today.
All right.
Trying to make you spit out your water.
Buckle down, people. I hope you have your food next to you and all of that.
Well, it's such a heavy topic. I am glad that we have someone like Tom here to help us address it, because he can help us get through it in not such a heavy way, even though it is a heavy topic.
It is a very complicated and complex issue that we're talking about
right
today.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Andrea, you mentioned at the beginning some of the different things that are going on in Belize, and we've got children that are experiencing trauma right now, and we've also got adults who experience trauma, you know, as they were growing up. So we've got so much going on in the country. I know, was there something else you wanted to share? Because you said you wanted to lay a foundation. Do you feel?
Yeah, I do. And I just want to talk about there's 3 E's, letter E's, that help us understand what trauma is and help provide a definition or identify what trauma is. And so trauma is any event, that's the first E, an event or a series of events that is experienced, that's the second E, as physically or emotionally harmful, and that has lasting adverse effects, which is the third E. So that it's an event that's experienced dangerously and has negative effects on a person's mental, physical, social, spiritual, sexual well-being.
Okay. So you said event that's experienced
and has negative
effects. Okay. So those are the 3 E's.
So it's not just I'm talking about I'm having a bad day,
right?
Or my friend didn't say hello to me when they passed by. Trauma is about things that fall under the abuse category: physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. It's about neglect, emotional neglect, and physical neglect. It's witnessing domestic violence or experiencing domestic violence. It's being mugged or raped or going through incest. It could be surviving a natural disaster.
Yeah.
Like the hurricanes we've had.
Yeah. That is. I was going to say, when you're describing all of that, that is pretty much what we were hearing and seeing in the news quite a bit.
Exactly.
Lately. Yeah.
And it includes things like a racial hatred, a prejudice is traumatic, being exposed to violence or tragedy. All of those things are part of trauma. So trauma has a pretty wide umbrella in describing things that help define it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, like you said a minute ago, that Belizeifying a bit what some of the traumas are that are common in Belize, but we just take for granted that that's what it is that happens here. You know, we constantly see people walking along the highway and getting hit by a car, and many times they're injured or they die.
Yeah.
So if you witness that was
or it happens to a family member of yours.
Okay, right.
Or if you're the driver of the vehicle.
Okay.
All the choppings, you know, after a night of drinking at a bar, there's some kind of dispute or some kind of disagreement.
Yeah.
Because not everybody in Belize has a gun.
Right.
But most everybody in Belize has a machete.
Right.
And so all the choppings that we have in our society, it includes shootings and killings. You know, when we had an office in Belize City, we heard stories of children leaving the house to go to school in the morning and having to either step over or walk past a dead body on the way to school.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that's really traumatic.
That is, yeah.
You know, how is a kid supposed to concentrate with having seen that once they get to class, once they get to school? Every year in the summer, it seems like we hear of Mennonite kids who get injured or even killed in the farm machinery.
Yeah.
That's traumatic to the family.
That is traumatic.
To the
or like house fires or apartments, you know. Yeah.
The wooden houses that burn down and people lose everything.
Yeah.
That's a trauma that they experience.
Yeah.
It includes things like domestic violence and you know, watching one parent beat up the other parents, or that's traumatic as well.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to ask real quickly, Tom and Alida, for those who are watching, if they're hearing us well or seeing us, it sounds on my end, some of the words is not clear. It's like I don't really know how to describe it. Yeah. So I just want to find out from those people who are watching, who are on, if they're hearing Tom well and Alida well, because some of the words I'm not hearing well.
Have you cleaned your ears, Andrea?
I might need to use some Q-tips.
We'll bring it down.
okay, where's the microphone on here?
Okay. All right.
So
it sounds like warbling. Is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Did somebody answer? Because I can't see.
Okay. Yeah. Let's say that she's hearing you good, so that's fine.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, another person said it's coming through very clear, so I think it's on my end.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
All right. So Tom, before I interrupted you there too, I was looking online for what people are saying about trauma, and there was a sentence that really jumped out to me where the person said, childhood trauma is often overlooked, greatly misunderstood, and one of the most damaging things that can happen to a child. The effects can last a lifetime, and my hope is to never hear the words, at least he was too young to remember again.
Yeah.
And I think that's how up to this day, we still kind of say that or deal with that. We think that because a child is young that they will outgrow it somehow, or they'll get over it because they won't remember that experience, or like, a child crossing over a dead body to go to school. Teachers probably don't even know how to deal with that. Parents don't know how to deal with that, especially when it's becoming, sad to say, almost a common thing that occurs on a daily basis. Like, people don't even want to watch the news if there's not a hot headline about a murder or some sort of killing.
Right. Well, I did want to say that trauma is not the event, that trauma is the response to the event.
Yeah.
So just because a child is young and you think, oh, they're not going to remember, your body remembers. It's still a part of you whenever you go through some type of experience like that. And I think children remember more than what we give them credit for sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the danger of the effects of trauma in children, is that when a person is traumatized, many times their feelings and their thoughts and their understanding or comprehension of the tragedy gets frozen. Okay. And so children may have witnessed something that's traumatic, but they don't have the vocabulary to put words to express what they're feeling or what they witnessed or have gone through. And especially, that in combination with someone who gets frozen emotionally.
Yeah.
Because it's too overwhelming to understand and process.
Yeah. I worked with a group of school children. They were infant 2. So it was a class of 6-year-olds. And they had witnessed a fight between 2 adults. And I went to go talk to the children, and I was asking them about different emotions. How does it make you feel? What makes you feel happy? What makes you feel scared? And one of the children, when I said, what makes you feel frightened, he told the story about the fight that the class had witnessed. Mm-hmm. And it had happened maybe 3 weeks prior. But he still remembered, and it was very vivid, and he told the story in detail. So there are so many things that children remember that we don't think. Yeah. We think once we've talked about it, then they've put it behind them. Maybe adults do that, but children don't necessarily do that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, if you missed out, well, it's there on the screen. We're talking about trauma, and we're talking about the effects related to that it has or how it impacts children. I'm not sure if we'll reach to the adults, okay, but we'll get there. Because I feel like Tom said about being frozen emotionally. I think though we still have adults who are still frozen emotionally. Yes. And we still have adults too that people say, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. Right.
You know, because of the trauma that happened maybe even in their childhood. So I think it does tie together too as well, right?
Yes, because that person's emotions and understanding of the event will stay frozen until they begin to go into counseling or therapy and talk about what they experienced. Okay. That's when their feelings are taken out of the freezer and begin to thaw out.
So Tom, when you talk about being frozen, do you mean like you get emotionally stuck at whatever age or point you were at when you experienced the trauma?
Yes.
Is that what you're okay? Yeah. So what does that mean? That means you might be 4 years old and still functioning like a 14-year-old, or
exactly. Yeah, that you still may not be able to fully identify what you're feeling,
okay,
and express what you're feeling,
okay,
or you do it on a much more infantile level.
Okay. So then that, like you mentioned earlier, instead of saying what's wrong with you or asking what's wrong with you, you ask what happened
to you. Tell me your story.
Yeah. And so however that person is acting out, you know, because they're stuck or frozen or whatever, that's what you meant by.
Yes. And that's many times what we see with children who've been traumatized. They don't necessarily go to their parents or a teacher or grandma and say, I saw this horrible thing. I need to tell you what happened. Many times children do that, but we see through their behavior that something is not right for them.
Yeah.
That they're not concentrating in class, or they're talking back at home instead of doing their chores, or they're starting fights with other people, or they might have problems sleeping at night. You know, they have flashbacks or they have nightmares from the trauma that is very intrusive for them. And many times usually the biggest symptom of trauma is just fear and anxiety because of how unsettling the event was. And so if you have a child who's been traumatized and they're sitting in class and they're having intrusive thoughts, thinking about what happened, they're not going to be able to pay attention to the teacher and concentrate on their lessons in class.
Yeah. I wanted to, I'm taking notes here, you know, so I don't forget, but I wanted to jump back to a little bit on, you talked about therapy, Tom, and I mean, you guys have lived in Belize long enough. Would you agree that that is something, and I don't know if it's just Belize or maybe it's all over, where people are scared of seeking counseling help or getting therapy because it seems as if though that's not a good thing, that's a bad thing. It shows you're weak or you have problems type thing. And so people are ashamed of seeking help.
I think sadly we still see a stigma that is attached to finding a counselor or working through, you know, those past issues. But what I would want to advocate for is that it actually takes a lot of courage and strength to go to a counselor and to talk about what's happened in the past and to work through and resolve those past events that were painful.
Yeah. And as a parent, you know, I think it's important that we get help for our children. You know, if my child breaks his arm, I'm going to make sure that I get that arm taken care of. Right. If they've gone through some type of horrific experience or witnessed something that was horrible, you know, it's important that those children get a chance to talk about it. You know, I mentioned that I worked with a group of, I worked with a class, an infant 2 class, It was the principal that called and asked me to come in and speak to the kids. So I was telling the teacher and the principal and everybody involved, you guys have done such a great job with this, because they've given the children several opportunities to talk about it so they can get their feelings out. That's healthy. You know, that's a real healthy thing to do.
Yeah. I think too, people, sometimes parents hold back too from, you know, helping their kids get their arm fixed.
Right.
They don't want the child to spill a family secrets or to, you know, say things that they themselves are covering up. And so a lot of times they prevent that child from getting the help that they should get because they're concerned about keeping certain things locked up. But I do want to read this comment from Let's. She says that I think one of the problems we as people have is that parents don't talk to their kids anymore. It has become where if a kid does wrong, the parent rush to beatings and scolding instead of talking.
Oh,
that's a great comment.
That's a great comment, Let's. Thank you. Yeah, I do see that as a problem.
Yeah.
Were you going to share something? Okay. Yeah, I've seen that happen, not just parent to child, but sometimes it happens in classrooms. Sometimes it happens at church, sadly. You know, that people rush to scolding or being frustrated instead of trying to understand what happened or why it happened and how that child is reacting or trying to process what happened to them.
Yeah, there's a passage, I believe it's in Isaiah, in the Living Bible, that says you can't heal a wound by saying it's not there.
Can't heal a wound.
Okay.
It's not there.
I'm not sure what's going on, if we're still live. I think everything got frozen.
Okay.
Let us try to figure it out.
I'm seeing on the screen that it's still live. Yeah. I think it's still live.
Can you hear us, Andrea?
Can you hear us?
Well, it looks like we've lost Andrea for a moment. We're getting a message that it says that the feed is fine. So maybe, Andrea, it's just a difficulty on your end. This is the joy of a live podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that Andrea's still working on the technical side on her end. I do see a few more comments. Yeah, that everything is fine. But yeah, Andrea's saying that her screen is frozen.
Well, let me go ahead and mention one thing about trauma, and that is that, like we said, trauma is not necessarily the event. It's the inability to process what happened. And so we need to remember that when someone has experienced a traumatic event, it's the trauma is their inability to understand and process the overwhelming event and experience that they've gone through. And because of that, you may have a brother and a sister who go through the same type of event. Let's say they have a dog.
Okay.
And they really care for the dog, and one day the dog leaves the yard and gets hit by a car. Okay. And you may have, the boy who is just completely devastated by that.
Yeah.
That dog meant the world to him.
Right.
He was close to that dog. And the sister is sad about it.
Okay.
But her world doesn't fall apart.
Right.
She's able to, talk about it. She might draw a picture about the dog, or say goodbye to the dog, or plan a funeral for it. And she's able to identify what she's feeling and express those feelings over the loss of the dog, but the brother isn't.
Okay.
And so in that example, he has experienced, well, they both have experienced trauma, but he gets stuck because he's not able to process what he's experienced. able to process it and move on.
Okay.
So it's not as of a heavy traumatic experience for her as it is.
So is it about the person's capacity, what they can or can't handle?
That's a big part of it, about a person's capacity to identify what they're feeling. It's also tied in with the brain,
okay.
and how much a person can tolerate those uncomfortable feelings as well.
So I know Andrea is still experiencing some technical difficulties, so she's not with us right now. But since we do have the stream up and Tom is here, we can keep on with the conversation.
So let me just mention that there's 3 scales of trauma. The first type of trauma is what's known as acute trauma. And it's acute. It doesn't mean it's cute to look at.
Right.
It's pretty. It's usually a single event that lasts for a limited time. So it's a one-time event, and maybe it gets repeated once or twice, but it doesn't last forever. The second type of trauma is chronic trauma. And this is when a person experiences either the same event many times over and over again, or multiple events that are traumatic over a long period of time. And so that's chronic trauma. Remember, acute trauma was a one-time event. Chronic is the same thing or many events happening several times over. Then we also have what's called complex trauma. And this is a specific kind of chronic trauma. It gets repeated many, many times and includes multiple traumatic events that usually begin under the age of 5 and are caused by adults who should be caring for the child. So you have multiple events of trauma that are experienced several times over. And they're done at the hands of a person who should be providing care for that child, and that's complex trauma. So, depending on how many events a person has experienced, how many times they've experienced those events, and the severity of those types of events, can indicate how severe the trauma is that a person has experienced or gone through. Okay.
So I didn't get to. Can you? I didn't get to hear everything because we're having technical difficulties today, and I just had to plug in our computer, and Andrea is changing her computer, and Tom is doing such a great job of continuing to go on. But we did get a comment earlier or a question, and I wanted to make sure we address that as well. This is from, I'm not sure, it must be Nanette. I wonder, what are some proactive ways to break the stigma of counseling and also encourage healthy conversations between parents and children?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think if we have leaders who have a position of responsibility or power, whether it's coming from leaders in the community, whether it's coming from church leaders, that they can advocate for being willing to look at things in the past that cause us to be bogged down, that prevent us from going forward. So if those things are advocated by people who have some power, that seems to give the green light to go ahead and deal with things.
So if it's talked about from the pulpit, or if it's mentioned maybe in a school setting, like at the university level or high school or whatever, you think that has the power to help break the stigma?
I think so. Even a principal at the primary school,
right,
who talks to the parents and says, you know,
yeah,
during the school year, we may see some behaviors in some of the students that are concerns for us or worrisome.
Right.
And for those students, what we'll do is we'll recommend counseling for them.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the things that I've noticed too is referrals from other people. You know, when someone has gone through counseling and has had a good experience, has really learned or grown in some way, and they can recommend to a friend, you know, that kind of helps break the stigma too. It's like, oh, well, if she did it, maybe I could do this too.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he did it, you know, maybe this is something that would be good for me. So I think that is one of the ways to break the stigma.
Mm-hmm. While we're waiting for Andrea, I did want to mention that probably one of the biggest impacts of trauma on children, and I'll link this to how trauma affects adults as well, is that trauma has an incredible impact on a person's brain.
Yes.
You know, God has designed us to see the warning signs when we're in danger, and to get ourselves to safety or protect ourselves.
So, like the red flags.
Well, I'll give an example. Let's say you're walking through the bush and you see a jaguar up ahead in your path. Your brain will
flight
issue some pretty dramatic red flags, and your body will respond by activating all kinds of parts of your body to keep you safe. Your pupils dilate so you can see better. Your muscles get filled with blood to give you strength to either fight or to run away. Your breathing increases. You start sweating to cool down your body. So the body is moving into what's called fight, flight, or freeze mode. That you're either gonna fight the jaguar,
right?
You're gonna run away from the jaguar, or you're gonna freeze so you're not noticed by the jaguar.
I think Andrea might be one of those people that's gonna fight the jaguar, huh?
That's right. No, actually, I'm a big scaredy cat. I would probably run and scream for dad, like.
We're glad you're back.
Not like Benaniah, huh? You're gonna chase a lion on a.
No, I'm gonna throw something over that pit and let him starve in the pit. I'm not going down in the pit. But yeah, I don't know. I guess something is off with my internet today because everything is super slow on my end. And I even tried switching computers and I couldn't even get on the other computer for some reason. Yeah, so everything that I need to open. So I closed a bunch of stuff and I had to refresh. So I hope that we didn't lose people there. So apologies for the.
Yeah,
we're glad you're back.
We're glad you're back. I don't think we lost anybody. We did get a comment telling us that we were still live. So everything's still going on. And Tom's been doing a great job of filling in, because while you were gone, I also had to plug in our computer. So Tom actually did the show by himself for a little bit.
Good. Yeah, this is what happens when you're jumping out and walking in faith and just kind of going with the flow, right? So
Tom, you were talking about the fight, flight, or freeze. That's what happens when we're in the experience, right?
Right.
Can't it also be our response when we get maybe re-traumatized?
Well, and that's why trauma impacts the brain in such a dramatic way. Is because those responses are designed to keep us safe from that jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a child who experiences trauma, and let's say it's a child whose parent is hitting the other parent. You know, Pa is hitting Ma. The body responds in that same way in an effort to protect against the threat, and so their system goes to full alert, just as if it had been that jaguar on the path.
And does that system take over every single time?
Yes.
You see the fight going on in your home, or start to hear your parents argue?
Yes, exactly. And that's the problem, is that people who have been traumatized have this emergency warning system that many times gets activated when things are not actually dangerous.
Okay.
Okay, and so their brain is secreting chemicals to keep them safe. The adrenal glands are doing their thing.
Yeah.
But you only want to use the adrenal glands when it's a true dangerous situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, you burn out your wiring.
Okay.
You know, and so that's one of the biggest impacts of trauma on the brain. If you have a child who's experienced a lot of trauma and they don't go into counseling or therapy and resolve those traumatic experiences, they carry that into adulthood.
Okay.
And they react the same way, and their body physiologically responds the same way.
Okay.
And it wears out their warning system. They will experience or have the signals for danger even in a safe situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like if your car gives off a false alarm. Somebody bumps into your car, or it's you know, the wind is too high and the alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to mean that somebody's trying to break in your car, but sometimes it's a false alarm.
Right, right.
That's what happens for people who are traumatized. They have many, many false alarms, and it wears down the system.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tiring on the system, and it actually rewires the brain.
Yeah.
Is what it does.
Yeah.
Did I don't know if you guys saw that comment from Nanette.
Yes.
And did you guys address that one?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So people, if you're watching, viewing, we would love to hear from you. If you have comments or maybe questions or any way that you want to contribute or add to our conversation, feel free to do so. Leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you guys. And if you just tuned in, we are talking about trauma today. Alida and Tom, they're actually in New Mexico, and they're joining us from there. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the reactions, the comments. Also, I want to encourage you to share the link to this post so that we could spread this topic, you know, far and wide, because I believe that what we're talking about, you know, has really good information that can maybe change somebody's life or a child's life, an adult maybe, because like we said, it's also adults as well, not children, just children we're focusing on.
Yeah. So Tom, with those different reactions that you were talking about, that's something that I might, you know, as a child or as a teenager, I might carry that with me to school, right? That if somebody confronts me, I mean, you know, I may react like as if I'm in a dangerous situation when it's not really a dangerous situation.
That's exactly right. And so part of the problem for teenagers, for instance, that have been traumatized teenagers will interpret a request as a command. And so what I mean is, you know, let's say that the teacher asks the teenager, you know, please get off your desk. During class, you can't sit on your desk. Please get in your seat. Well, a traumatized teenager will take that as those are fighting words.
Yeah.
They'll take that as a command instead of a request. And so they may respond in a resistant way, or you can't tell me what to do, and all of that response is based on the trauma that they've experienced, not with the teacher, but wherever they've experienced it before.
Yeah.
So what can we do, Tom? Like, I know there's not a quick fix there's to this. And, you know, from all that I've read, you know, that there's no quick fix. But I also wanted us to, what can we do to help or to, I don't know, make a difference somehow?
Well, I think one thing that we can do is to have a part 2 of the show.
I noticed. I was going to ask Alida to, you know, beg you to come and do a part 2.
I think we need a part 2 for sure.
But briefly, especially if it's been a natural disaster that someone has experienced, or the death of someone or a family member who gets injured or mangled, the first 24 to 48 hours are the most crucial for that traumatized person.
Okay.
And if they have another person who comes alongside them, who can empathize, who can provide comforting words, who can listen to whatever words they can come up with, who will hold them while they're crying or they're scared, that really helps to reset the part of the brain that senses fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so those first 24 to 48 hours are vital to find a contact with another person who can provide some comfort and some reassurance.
Okay.
Comfort and reassurance is not the, oh, don't feel that way. Oh,
Tell me what happened.
Tell me what happened. Yeah. You need to ask open-ended questions so the person can talk.
How do you feel? What are your concerns? What are your fears? Tell me more about how much you love this person. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your connection with them.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's one thing that we can do. Alida and I have this, I don't want to call it a bag of tricks, but we have some grounding techniques that we use in the counseling office. Yeah. And one is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what this is we have the person put their feet on the ground, put their hands on their knees.
So it means sitting up straight and putting both feet on the ground so that you're grounded.
Okay.
Taking a deep breath, and then asking, tell me 5 things that you see right now. Mm. Tell me 4 things that you can hear. Tell me 3 things that you can touch. Tell me 2 things that you can taste, and 1 thing that you can smell.
Yeah.
And so what that does is the amygdala, which is at the bottom, the base of the brain, it's the one that senses the environment for fear. These types of grounding events help reset the amygdala so that it's not sensing fear when there really isn't fear. Mm-hmm. So it helps the brain to calm down, and then the person can calm their system down. So we have some grounding techniques like that. Another one is called TAP, T-A-P, and it's a similar grounding technique.
Yeah.
And these kind of tools are good when you see a child or a teenager or an adult even kind of check out, like they might not be fully focused on what's going on right now, or and they're just kind of dissociating is the word. And a lot of times when I see that happen in the counseling office, I'll ask them, so where did you go? Because sometimes they're reliving what happened to them in their head, Yeah. I know that can happen in classrooms, and teachers might think that the child is daydreaming or something like that, but that's not what that is. For a child who's experienced trauma, they're kind of checking out, dissociating in a way.
Yeah. So I think training for like teachers, when we are talking in the classroom setting would be a good thing.
Yeah.
For them to get training, in some of these basic things to be that first point of contact, maybe, it's not for them to become a therapist per se. They're usually the first point of contact for kids coming into a classroom that maybe just went through something really traumatic.
Right.
So, and then I was thinking about, I've witnessed where I've seen women who have, gone through really horrendous things in their life, and then they get pregnant, and the whole labor and delivery is a whole different ball game. It brings back a lot of things, and to me, I also see that it's lacking in the healthcare system in how to really treat or help these women, because they can't be handled, for a lack of better word, the same way that you would maybe talk to somebody who hasn't gone through that type of situation.
Exactly. And again, like Tom mentioned earlier, it's not about why, looking at this woman and going, why are you acting that way? Yeah. It's happened to her. What experience is she reliving? How is how is being in this much pain or the fear of the unknown, you know, how has that impacted her life? What's going on for her? And so taking a more, what's it called? A trauma-informed approach to healthcare or to the teaching or whatever it is, to have that trauma-informed background really does help in situations like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so if we can, I was reading, and I don't know, I feel like I missed some things. You said I didn't miss, but I feel like I missed something. I know I'm scared to ask Tom something because maybe
because there were some things that you missed. And like I said, I had to go grab an electrical cord and get our computer plugged in. So there were some things I missed. Like I said, Tom did the show on his own for a few minutes. So
yeah, you can go
back and ask.
Or go back and watch the show.
Yeah, I'll do that. But
part 2 so that we can
we'll have to do part 2. So we'll have a few more minutes before we wrap up here. Because I don't know if we had talked, and maybe Tom did, in detail maybe about how the impact. I know Tom had said that some of the symptoms is fear and anxiety, but what are some of the long-term health issues of that child? Did we talk about that? Do we want to talk about that?
Too much of a topic. We'll need to include it in next time. Because we didn't get a chance to even touch on the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. And I think that might have been one of the things that you had heard about, Andrea, that got you interested in this topic. So we do need to cover. We've got a lot of things still to cover. But I saw a comment that Nanette said, "Excellent show. Can't wait to hear more on the second show. We've learned so much. Thank you." And Griselli, great tip. I think she mentioned that earlier when we were talking about the 5, grounding. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. And I think this is definitely a topic that more people need to be interested in, and not just another trauma topic. But I was reading some comments because I know Oprah has been talking a lot about it lately. And I saw a comment where somebody said, "Oh, now just because Oprah is talking about it, all of a sudden it means something. I've been talking about it for years." You know, and so I could sense the frustration there because you have people who knows how this can be life-changing. And, you know, it could help us in how we respond to others, to children and to adults. And so they were like, yes, it's great that she's talking about it, but then what, you know, we've been talking about it forever. But I mean, like, to me, in light of all that's been taking place, I remember how Alida and I struggled to really continue our show with a topic that we had chosen because of all of the stuff that was happening in the news. And people need to realize that what we see on the news is just a little bit of what is actually reality, what's really taking place in this country and around the world. So what better time? I know it's Easter time. Everybody's, you know, thinking about going on vacation or making their hot cross buns and all of that. But I feel like this was a very good time to bring this topic up. So.
And I agree with you. And I did see some of those comments as well about, oh, wow, now Oprah knows about it. But, you know, I was excited because more people that bring attention or awareness to the topic, that's a good thing.
Exactly.
You know, those of us that are working in this field, we've known about trauma for a while. But to have somebody that can highlight it, Oprah did an interview on 60 Minutes with a doctor, I believe, a psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not sure. But I think that's a good thing.
Exactly.
You know, I don't think it's something for us to be angry about or frustrated with, because like I said, the more somebody shines a light on the issue, the better.
Yeah.
And, you know, that particular show that you were mentioning, so much had happened in the news. The 7-month-old baby, the 4-year-old girl, there was a murder or something else. The women, yeah. So think of all of the people that were traumatized. Think of the collective trauma that we all experienced together, or the people that got re-traumatized because it reminded them of something that had happened in their childhood.
Yeah.
You know, this is always a topic that I think we can revisit every single year or a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay, I lost my thought. I should have written it down. I'm trying to go back to, a question that Tom had said at the beginning. So we could practice that over this long weekend, until the next show, instead of, we should ask what happened to you,
right?
Instead of what is wrong with you.
Exactly.
Is that it?
That's it. You got it.
Yeah.
So I hope our viewers got that right. So you have to, instead of blurting out what is wrong with you, maybe try asking what happened to you.
And that's a much more compassionate way of approaching someone who's having trouble and difficulty.
Yeah. And I think the world needs a little bit more of compassion, more love, more patience too, especially with our younger kiddos. I think we are so busy always doing things that we become very impatient. And we lack compassion. Yeah.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely
right. But they're cut in front of me, road rage.
Yeah. So you can take a deep breath and just wonder to yourself, what happened to that person?
Yeah.
Can I say what happened to make you act so stupid, Tom?
Wrong question, Andrea.
Oh, yeah, we definitely need a part 2 because we got.
And I wasn't saying you, Tom. I just, that came up bad. I wasn't calling you stupid.
We got it. Or you understood, didn't you? You didn't take offense.
I didn't take that in.
And I want you to come back to do part 2.
You can say it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take it in. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you guys have any final things that you want to say before we go?
I've said it all.
Yeah.
All for now.
No, I think
to wrap up.
I think this is like you ladies said, this is a really important topic, and it needs to be revisited time and again. And I just want to offer people who have been carrying around a lot of baggage where they've been stuck in the past, that there is hope that's available for them. That there are people who are willing to listen to their stories and walk with them through those really hurtful and traumatic events that they've experienced, and that they can find some healing from that. Yeah. They can be free from the nightmares or the negative thoughts or the burdensome feelings that they've been carrying.
Yeah. I'm very thankful, Tom, for you and Alida for being willing to help discuss this topic, because I don't know much about it. I learned a lot today, and just doing some research, I learned a lot today. So I've been writing stuff down in my book.
Good. That's great.
Good.
Yeah. So enjoy your rest of the time in New Mexico.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, and eat chalupa for me, will you?
Okay.
So while we were on the show, my husband surprised me too with a little gift. And so, my kiddos are like, just hanging right on the edge. Can I get a piece? So let me brag with it for a bit there, honey. Okay, I'm gonna brag a bit and show you guys what I got.
Uh-oh.
Look at that.
Wow,
That's
goodness.
A beautiful cake.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that? I mean, the camera doesn't do it justice. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I might regret sharing this because I don't want people ducking up at my house for a peek.
You're gonna have some neighbors stopping by.
You stop that on your own.
That's right.
I wish everybody all the best. Be safe this weekend for you guys who are going to be traveling. You know, there was a great tip that was sent out about driving defensively. I think that was saying paying attention to what's going on in front of you, behind you. You know, practice some compassion during this weekend. You know, don't drink and drive, especially, you know, I don't even want to say especially, but if you don't have a designated driver, or you think that, oh, one bear is not going to do me anything, you know, don't take a chance. So, right. You know, enjoy your family. Let this be a time where you hang out with family and friends. Watch out with the water, people, especially drinking and being around water.
And watch out for the bicyclists as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the cross country is coming up too on Saturday, and I'm excited. I'm really hoping a Belizean will take the garland this year.
Yes, so, that would be great.
Yeah.
So, well, we do want to say thank you to everybody that joined us. Thank you for all of the comments. I saw Griselli. She said, thank you guys for this great topic and giving some light to we who need it. So tune in next week for part 2. And we look forward to seeing you guys when we get back.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.